All right, a couple of people left comments asking my opinion on this Chris Eubank Jr. weighing 164 pounds business. He posted a video on social media, I think it was last week, which showed a pair of feet stepping onto a set of scales and weighing 164 pounds. There's some speculation as to whether it's really Chris Eubank Jr. stepping on those scales, whether it's just some type of trick he's trying to pull, and why he's even doing it. Some people are saying that he's basically getting his excuse in early in case he loses to George Groves. He can fall back on the fact that he's not a real middleweight, or sorry, not a real super middleweight. Here's my take on it. It could very well be Chris Eubank Jr. stepping on those scales weighing 164. I think the thing that people are not considering or maybe overlooking is the fact that he might have just been training for 2 or 3 hours. You know, you have to remember that when Chris Eubank Jr. was fighting at middleweight, he was dehydrating himself down to 160. Well, when he's in his training sessions, he also is dehydrating himself through sweating out loads of water. You know, anyone who's done serious boxing training and you regularly check your weight, you will know that if you're, you know, a guy 5'11", 6 foot or above, you can easily lose 6, 7, 8 pounds in a session. If you're doing like 2 hours of intense cardio, you can easily lose that in water weight. So it wouldn't surprise me if that really was Eubank Jr. He might have started off that day. Maybe he did 2 sessions and he wasn't rehydrating, or not rehydrating much that day. And he could have started out at 170, and through losing water weight, he got down to 164. That's very plausible as far as I'm concerned. I remember when Shannon Briggs fought Vitaly Klitschko, and going into the Klitschko fight, he was talking about his weight, and he said he was, I think, 235 or 238 or something like that. And he posted a video, but the guy was drenched in sweat. He clearly just finished the workout when he was weighing himself at 238. So he'd lost probably, you know, 8, 10 pounds in that session. He's a heavyweight at the end of the day, 6'4", big guy. If he does a session, he's going to sweat a hell of a lot of water out. So that's the question that people are not asking, I think, is, if that really was Chris Eubank Jr., maybe he was at the end of a session. And that is kind of a deceptive thing to do, to weigh yourself at the end of a session, because you know you're going to be a hell of a lot lighter than you were at the start of the session. Especially if, as I say, it's like the second session of the day or something like that. You're going to be a hell of a lot lighter. This is how fighters get themselves down in weight for weigh-ins, by depriving themselves of not only food but also liquid in the weeks leading up to a fight. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it really was Eubank Jr.'s feet stepping onto those scales and that he was legitimately 164. But I think that if it was, then he would have been doing it at the end of a session. I don't think he's really 164 walking around. I think Eubank Jr. must be at least 168, 170 walking around. And I think he said that before. I think he said that he walks around more or less on the super middleweight limit. And that I can believe. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on it. George Groves is definitely the bigger man. There's no question about it. George Groves is way over 168 pounds most of the time. And he only comes anywhere close to 168 pounds at weigh-ins. In the ring on the night, he's going to be closer to, you know, 180 something. Maybe 180. Yeah, maybe the low 180s, high 170s, low 180s when he's actually in the ring fighting Eubank Jr. And Eubank Jr. is not going to be that heavy. Eubank Jr., I reckon, at the very most, because he's obviously going to carb up after he's weighed in, you know, the next day, the day of the fight, he's going to carb up and he'll probably come into the ring maybe at the most in the low 170s. And Groves is going to be either in the high 170s or low 180s. That's what I envision for that particular fight. How much difference will it make? I don't know. George Groves is definitely the biggest puncher that Eubank Jr. will have ever stepped in the professional ring with and fought with small 10-ounce gloves on. So, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think the physical strength of Groves will be a problem for Eubank because Eubank is extremely physically fit and he spars in a very physical way with loads of inside work and pushing around and mauling against much bigger guys than himself in sparring. So I don't think the strength of Groves will be an issue for him, but the punching power might be an issue potentially. We have to find out. You never know. When he's never been in there with 10-ounce gloves against a puncher like Groves before. So we just don't know how he's going to react the first time he gets cracked. And I do expect him to get cracked by Groves very, very solidly at some point. And that could be a pivotal moment in the fight. You know, that could be the moment that the fight turns on one way or the other. If he's able to walk through Groves' power, then Groves is in very, very serious trouble indeed. Because Eubank's inside game is vastly superior to George Groves. Eubank's hand speed on the inside is much faster than George Groves's. I think on the outside, Groves's right hand is faster than anything Eubank Jr. can throw at long range. But when they get into mid and close range, Eubank Jr. has a massive speed advantage. And punch variety, work rate, and all that kind of stuff, when he's up close and at mid range, Groves is going to be in trouble if he can't hurt Eubank. If he can hurt Eubank, then he should be able to keep him honest and give himself the space necessary to be able to box the fight that he wants to box, which is going to be a long range fight, sniping. But as I say, it really does all hinge, as far as I'm concerned, on whether he can get Eubank's respect with that right hand. If he can win the fight. Probably on points, I reckon. Maybe late stoppage. But if he can't, you know, he's in problem. He's in trouble. He's in very, very serious trouble. In fact, no, if Groves can hurt Eubank, he might. He could get him out of there anytime, really, because Eubank, you have to try and predict how Eubank's going to react if Groves hurts him. Will Eubank go into a shell? Or Eubank be macho and still try to come forward and still try to get punches on? Because in the back of his head, Eubank is thinking, I can't go out like I did against Billy Joe Saunders, where I gave away so many of the early rounds by not pressing the action. So he might get hurt by Groves and think, you know what? I can't allow Groves to have space. I can't give him respect. Even though he's hurt me, I can't give him respect. I have to keep pressing forward. He might do that, get clipped and get himself seriously hurt or knocked out. That's a possibility, but I'm going to say that he won't be as foolish as that if he does get hurt, he'll be a bit more circumspect and he will maybe wait a few rounds, land a few body shots and hope to get George Groves tired before he steps on the gas. So it's an intriguing fight. I wouldn't be shocked if either guy won. And I'm going back and forth in my head in terms of who I think will win and what my prediction's going to be. Initially, when this fight was being mooted, I was leaning towards Eubank Jr. But after Groves' performance against Cox, and I thought he looked good against Cox. I know defensively he didn't look great, but he's never looked great defensively throughout his whole career. Even the old George Groves, the Groves I consider to be a prime Groves, he was never great defensively. But what he was is great offensively. He was very sharp. And I saw that same offensive sharpness against Cox that I've been hoping to see for years. The offensive sharpness that, for my money, has been missing from George Groves for a couple of years now, at least since the second Carl Froch fight. After the second Carl Froch fight, I didn't see that same offensive sharpness that Groves had prior to that. But in the Cox fight, I saw it again. That's what my eyes saw. I saw the old Groves' offensive sharpness, the very, very sharp, fast, explosive right hand, particularly. So, yeah, it's going to be intriguing. I haven't yet made my mind up on who I think is going to win. But let me know what you guys think anyway in the comment section below about the whole weight situation with Eubank. Maybe some of you guys hadn't considered that, the fact that he could have just weighed himself after a workout. You know, and then again, you have to ask the question, if he has weighed himself after a workout, knowing that that's not representative of how he's actually walking around at, you know, the weight he's walking around at, because he knows he's lost 7-8 pounds water weight during a session. Why would he be doing that? Is he just bored and he just wants to put something out there on social media? Or is it a situation where he is preparing his excuse in case he loses? He can drop back down to 160 and say, see, I weren't really a super middleweight. So it's no disgrace me losing to Groves. I lost to a much bigger man. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, people. Plenty to discuss there. It's happening. I'm out.